Hey, welcome back to Yvonne Wakefield's YouTube and podcast channel, where I'll be reading Babe in the Woods. We're working on Babe in the Woods 1 right now, and then Babe in the Woods 2, and the recently released Babe in the Woods 3, which takes you up to nearly 50 years of my life at this log cabin I built at 18 that I still own when I'm in my 60s. So the last couple chapters, we saw me how I got up to the cabin. I just got whacked in the head with a bow saw. I went to a bakery. I got a map to find a carpenter or a builder who could help me. So chapter 6 is called The Man and His Land. When I first bought into John Day country, I knew nothing about the first explorers or the desperation that drew men to guns, to fire. Then steady employment kept that rangy portion of Oregon happy and humming. Old growth stands fell and kept green chains, sawmills, and the economy running. When I was out looking to buy land, Sisters and Bend to the west of here appealed to me. But they were more prisified and manicured than John Day, which maintained a rawness that made land more affordable. The city had a population shy of 2,000, more or less, since the 1862 gold rush petered out. Main Street, a narrowing in the artery of Highway 26, was the dividing line of commerce, split north and south by a river, east and west by a valley and fossil beds. Both waterway and geography are named after a legendary trapper who lost more than his mind in this land, quick to blindside wide-eyed wanderers like me. The main fork of the John Day River snakes along the backside of the city and is a tributary of the Columbia River with headwaters in the Strawberry Mountain Range that abuts my land. This river is not dammed at any point in its nearly 300-mile stretch. The land is a trifle of earthly upheavals in the southeastern part of the Blue Mountain region, so vast it could hold 1 million more people than live in the city of John Day and still have room left over for Manhattan, Malibu, and a share of Reno, and maybe even a couple of less notable places. This country I was finding was big enough to hold me. The city boasted several bars, more restaurants, well-stocked drug, hardware, furniture, and clothing stores, laundromat, and the only liquor store in the county. Emery's Bakery Cafe, famous for its cardiac-arresting chicken fried steak, was the most popular place in town until the Roundup opened its bar at 11. In the fall hunting season, Emery's opened hours earlier, extended to the elk and antelope and deer hunters preparing to go into or having just returned from the country where the namesake's spirit still roams. As I ate breakfast that first morning in town, I read the backside of Emery's menu. Printed in bold Western script was, "Who is John Day?" followed by a brief history of his duly noted trapper. Unlike his hunting partner, Daniel Boone, John Day posthumously gained only localized fame. He never had a theme song written about him as Boone did, a man as mighty as an oak tree, with an eye like an eagle and a dead raccoon on top of his head, or maybe it was the heel of his rawhide shoe. John Day's only claim to fame was that he survived an Indian ambush that stripped him of everything. He was left naked at the mouth of a river later named after him in honor of the upset that would have done in a lesser man. He never fully recovered. His body and mind, sprung by hardships he couldn't brush off, left John Day listless as a coonskin hat. Rings dark as pucks rimmed his eye sockets. Of the prevailing accounts of his last days, there are at least a predominant 3. I'm partial to this one. Stirred by the memories of beating the odds against him, John Day threw himself into a campfire, then ran half naked into the mountains screaming. His body was never found. This account I choose to believe because it's a good story of what happens when a person meets up with the dark, unsettled stranger in themselves and can't make friends. It's the kind of mindset that makes a person find salvation in a gun, a bottle, or a good long run. The later I truly believe John Day did until he fell crazed as a landscape cradling his spirit. John Day is calling me home. I'm deep in John Day country thinking that maybe I was like that trapper too, living proof one could transform misfortunes through sheer or blind ambition. I was also unaware, like John Day, that I could become undone by my own adventure. On this deserted road, there is not a trace of human life, not even a gum wrapper in sight. After some time spent questioning the stability or direction of the roads I navigate according to Emery's map, I managed to spy a building in the approximate penned location. It is just below the road and set among a ring of second growth fir and pine. I let the engine idle a bit, along with my thoughts on whether to proceed. The road is so narrow, the only way to turn around is at the top of a driveway leading down to a cluster of batten and board buildings, a move that would announce my presence in any case. I parked the Gremlin, remember that's my AMC little car, at the top of the drive, then slowly walked down a pine-needly slope towards a mortar post and beam cabin and 2 sheds. Unlike my land still snowed under, this lower elevation opening is showing signs of spring. 2 unfettered goats nibble new growth, unperturbed by my stealthy presence. All of a sudden, our eyes pick up when a man rounds the corner of a neighboring shed. Over 6 feet tall, he moves gracefully, yet guardedly, balancing the sinewy bark of a bodybuilder. His expression is like an eagle's, stoic, wild-eyed, proud. At first glance, the kind of guy I don't want to mess with. I hold out my map. Hi, you must be Jim. The man holds his tongue, eyes me like prey, and expressions a signal. It's like time for me to tuck my tail and run. Emery sent me. You know Emery, he owns Emery Cafe. I say as quickly as I hope I can run because the eyes of the man in front of me hold a fierce spark threatening to me. Before I could even turn and head up to my car, lock myself in and back around and drive down that long forlorn road, he could have me by the shirt collar. In that position, I couldn't even begin to think about what would come next, so I tried to reason with this flinty-eyed mountain man in frayed jeans and wool shirts. I'm building a cabin up above Pine Creek. Yesterday I cut a tree and it nearly fell on me. I rubbed my forehead. The man continues to glare down on me. I need some help. Emery said, the man who in the back of my mind I'm hope is Jim, evenly asks, what were you cutting with? I describe how the saw, the book, how I came to the mountain to build. Slowly his stern gaze softens as a smile forces up his mustache and beard. Come and meet my family, he says. Are you Jim, I ask. I am. Jim leads me to his cabin and introduces me to his wife and children, whom I'm seeing peeking out through the windows. We stand about at the bottom of the porch step with split log stringers. Sophie is 2 and hides behind her mother's legs. Isaiah, the baby, drools in his mother's arms. Welcome, says Luann with a smile that says, I haven't seen anyone but my kids and husband for way too long. Luann, like Jim, also looked to be around 35 years old. Like her husband, she wore jeans and thick shirts, maybe his, judging by how they fit. Her complexion clear, hair pulled back, the 2 young ones hanging onto her. She looked like her work. She invited me inside, and I sat at a rough-hewn table and accepted a tin mug filled with water dipped from a covered bucket. Sophie seemed to be stuck to her mother's leg because she moved behind Luann's every step, her brown eyes focused on me, though. The little family lived without electricity or running water. 2 sheds housed food stores, tools, and 4 goats, of which 3 were female and central to the family's supply of milk and yogurt. In summer, laundry dried on twine stretched between pine trees. In winter, on twine drawn between 2 penny nails hammered behind the wood-burning stove. The few rough-framed windows in the one-room cabin steamed up with cleanliness evaporating. Their success at living with the land was based on simple, dogged work. By kerosene lamplight, Luann ground grain by hand and baked bread in the wood-burning cook stove. During the day, she washed clothes and diapers in 2 pans of water, heating on the same stove, every drop hauled in buckets from the nearby spring. Jim did the outdoor work and hired on for odd jobs when they came his way. Their lives were built on grit and elbow grease, that armchair back to the landers only read about in magazines like Mother Earth News. By the time my tin mug is drained, I've learned enough about Jim and his family, and they about me, that Jim agrees to work for me for $2 an hour. On account of, he reasons, that's how much he was paid for hauling goat milk in Idaho. We shake on it. I give him a rough-drawn map to my land, and we plan to reconvene later that week at Emery's. By road, Jim's cabin is about 28 miles from my land, and I wonder as I drive away if he knows what he's getting into. Honestly, I can't tell him, because I've only got a picture in my head and no concrete plan on how to develop it. I know a log cabin is built from logs, and that's as far-ranging as my construction experience gets. I hope I can rely on Jim to fill in the gaps. Thank you for listening to my YouTube channel, Yvonne Wakefield, Babe in the Woods, and podcasts. We'll see you next week for the next chapter 7. Remember, hydrate with the beverage of your choice. Have a great week. Bye-bye.